Well, welcome back everyone, and it's time for another match fishing vlog, and it's more of the same actually. A nice little match win again at Shearsby Valley Lakes. Went there this weekend, well yesterday in fact, for the Saturday qualifier. I've already qualified for the final, but like I said in my last video, I wanted to go a few more times just to keep my eye in, and it worked out a treat again. Now, I drew, it was only a small match, there was only a few of us there, a few people were on different things and whatnot, but nevertheless I like those matches because you always catch a load of fish and it's really enjoyable. So we're all on Hurricane Lake, which is the first lake you come to of the two main match ponds, and I drew peg 22, which is a corner peg. Now ever since I've been going there, I've wanted to draw a corner because I felt like they would be really good. Obviously you've got the bank to fish up against and stuff like that, but I've never actually drawn one. And to be fair, the middle of the lake is generally better. And as I got to my peg 22, the wind wasn't really blowing into it. There wasn't a lot of wind, but what it was sort of to my left, kind of. And all this scum had gathered in the middle of the lake. John Shellard and Gaz Sadler were over there, and Danny Lamb, and it just looked really good. There were a lot of carp milling about in this scum, and I thought, if that carries on, they could be really hard to beat today. But there was a few fish mooching around in my corner peg as well, so I wasn't unhappy. I decided it was going to take a few more rigs this peg because normally, obviously, I'm in the open water sort of swims at Shearsby. I'm just fishing 5 metres, 4 metres with my micro paste and then the margins. But obviously with that long bank, I felt like I needed to approach that as well because that would be a good place to catch some carp. So what I did, I set up 4 metres, top kit and 1 with my micro paste rig, which was a 4x14 F1 pellet, just with a bulk and a 6-inch hook length, 14 GPM hook, 014 hook length, just nice simple stuff really. I set up a 5 metre paste rig for the bigger carp, but instead of doing it in front of me, I didn't like it. My peg was really shallow, the water level's down a bit, and it's a shallow peg anyway. And I just felt that if I could get out of the corner a little bit, I might stand a better chance of catching a few carp. So I fished 8 metres actually, down to my left, but probably 5 metres from the bank. Lovely flat spot I found, about 4 foot deep, and I thought that's the spot to catch some carp at some point. Margin to my left, it was really close, where the hole in the reeds was, where you can get into the shallow water. Was just a top kit and 1 section, and like a half a section, it was just right there. 2 rigs were prepared for that. One for it was so shallow in the edge, and I'll more about that later, but it was about that deep right in the grass, which I thought could be a problem, and it was actually. It was that deep in the grass, so I set a rig up for probably 8 inches deep to fish over depth, how I've been fishing, and then one in 2 foot, because I know from previous experience that when they're like that, with really shallow margins, it can be really tricky to catch them. And then, fortunately, my edge rigs doubled up as my up the bank rigs because it's very similar depth. I picked a spot at 13 metres, just up against some irises, it was about 2 foot deep. And then I also set a mugging rig up because having seen, when I walked down to the calf to get a cup of tea before the start, and there was loads of carp milling around in this scum in the middle of the lake, and I thought if that just so happens to drift my way, which can happen, you know, the wind can change, I need a mugging rig just in case. So that was just a 4x12 carp shallow float. I used just a 15-inch hook length because I think that's about the right depth for mugging them, and I was going to use like a 6mm Robin Red hard pellet on the hook. Bait wise, it was really simple. I had a couple of tins of hemp, I had some Super Crush Green ground bait for feeding the margins and up the bank, and then I prepared some overwetted 4mm fishery pellets, just like what I have been doing, and then my paste. I had 2 pastes. I had a stiff one for my micro paste for catching those small fish, and then I had a really, really wet one for the margins and up the bank. So into the match, and I kicked off. I fed my swim, I fed the top kit and 1, again, just like last week, a ball of 4mm. It was probably a foot shallower than my swim last week, so it was quite a bit different actually. It was quite tricky, but more of that later. I fed that sort of 5 metre but 8 metre pace swim, if you know what I mean, with a bit of hemp. And then I fed up the bank with some hemp as well. I didn't touch the margins as per last match, didn't need to start with. And then I kicked off on my sort of big carp pace line, and nothing happened. I caught a few little bits, just didn't feel right at all. So I was quickly onto my top kit and 1. John Shellard was to my left, a great local angler. And he was fishing, I went up and saw him before I started. He had ground bait for the edge and then he had maggots, and he was going to fish maggots shallow, which has been really good there. There's an explosion of these F1s, and he was going to target them. A bit like how I am with my micro paste, but he was, going to fish shallow for them. And he was already catching shallow at this point, just 5-10 minutes into the match. So I was soon onto my micro paste, and I was catching just as fast as he was, which was quite nice to see, because I always wondered how fast it would be, and it was really... People don't understand that micro paste is so efficient because it's so quick. If you think about it, everything's right, you're tight to the float, you see the bite straight away, and as long as you read the bristle, you can't go wrong. Now, based on the information last week when I was throwing 4mm in as well as potting them in, and I caught some bigger F1s later on, I was quick to throw pellets in this week. And I was missing a few bites, a bit more, and I just put it down to the lack of wind in my peg compared to the week before. But I was still catching really well, and I was catching some really nice little hand-sized carp, which I knew weighed probably 6 to 8 ounces each. Even though they didn't look it, I thought, they're dumpy fish they are. They're all right. So I just got my head down, and after sort of an hour and a half, it was just like shelling peas, to be honest with you. I was just going in, clunk, got one, and I found the best way was to catch sort of 8 or 9 fish, dump a ball of 4mm in and fish it out, a bit like fishing for roach or whatever with bread punch, I suppose. Like you fish your bait out, and that was best, because with it being so calm, as soon as I threw any pellets in, the fish came up, and I wasn't really geared up to fish shallow at this point. Anyway, I went up the bank. I'd fed it a few times with hemp, and it was obvious. I was just watching for signs of carp coming in. And after a little spell, I could see carp drifting in out the middle of the lake. You could see them. They were like following the same path. They'd come in down the middle of the lake, come into my margins up the bank, and then go out again. I thought I could pick a few of them off if I get my timings dead right. So what I found, I'd pot some hemp in with a big pot, come back, catch 2 or 3 more of these little carp, and then go straight in. As soon as I'd seen them come in towards me, I'd get my bait in position and be ready, almost like ambushing them. It was quite good. And what was happening, the carp were coming down the bank, I could see them, and if I got my timings dead right, they'd come in and I'd get one straight away. And they weren't big fish, they were sort of 4 to 5 pounders, but they were obviously big bonus fish on the day. And I probably caught 8 or 9 carp doing that, and it was all about getting my timings dead right. I was just potting my bait in, coming back, catching, like smashing a few of these little fish up, catching them, and then literally I could see them. As soon as 3 or 4 carp came in, go and catch one, and then start the process again. And I caught, like I say, 8 or 9 carp doing that, which is brilliant in the middle of the match there. I mugged a few as well. An odd opportunity came up for a mugger, and I had one about £6, I had another one about £4, and I had a nice ghostie about £5 or £6 as well, so that was worth doing. And then it all went a bit quiet. I made the stupid mistake. I fed my bait up the edge. I thought I could catch them in the shallow water, so I fed some bait up in the shallow water like a fool. And I knew, and it should have been in my head for the margins really. And the fish went up in the shallow water and I couldn't catch them, and it did my head in. So I thought, right, just get your head down, let them eat that bait, get rid of it, and concentrate on that top 4 line. And I was catching really well, and John was catching really well. And I thought, but every time I was feeding by hand a bit, and the fish were just coming up. So I had a decision to make. I was missing too many bites for that pace to be good enough. The fish had definitely come up because of the lack of wind. Luckily, I always keep 4 top kits, short stop, 1-piece top kits in my rod bag. I've got my monster top kit case. I have 4 in there that have got rigs on at all times, because you just never know. Whenever these places these days, there's so many shallow fish, so you might just need them. So I have 4 rigs at 4-inch intervals, 8-inch, 12-inch, 16-inch and 22-inch or 20-inch, whatever it is. 4 rigs, and I quickly got them. I got off my box with about 2 hours to go, and I got them out, and I fished shallow, and I totally changed tack. I got some hard pellets out of my bag, some Fishery Hard 4mm pellets. Started throwing them in, and it was like shelling peas. And every single one was a little F1, about 8 ounces, and it was really good. I've got to say, I learned quite a lot in that little spell. So caught some fish shallow, which was really nice. And then by this point, there was about an hour and a half to go, and it was time to get in the edge. Now the edge was really frustrating. I fed it, went straight in on it, I literally fed it and went and followed it in. I didn't wait for it to build up or anything because the fish were getting closer. I could tell. You can tell at Shearsby when the fish are ready to come in the edge because they start mooching around in front of you under your pole. And that was happening. So I knew that if I got my bait in and followed it straight in, I'd probably catch one. And that's what happened. I put my bait in, hemp with a cap of ground bait, not too much ground bait. Followed it straight in my pace and I got one £8 straight away. I thought, brilliant. And this was where the best bit of my day happened, actually. I was just fishing away, concentrating as you do, and I heard, "That's my daddy," which I can recognise my little girl's voice anywhere. And as you can see, this little sign here, my wife Amy brought her along just for a little bit. Unfortunately, it started chucking it down, so she had to go home, but she sat and watched me for sort of 20 minutes, which was really, really nice. You know, I love to see her come and get outside and come and see the fishing and stuff, so that was really nice. But I was catching well in the edge, being cautious with my bait, but then exactly the same thing happened. I probably made a mistake. I was getting giddy. I thought there was a big weight on the cards here, and I potted my bait in the shallow water, which is just stupid. You can't do it there because the fish go up there and they're so hard to catch, and that's what happened. I put my bait in them sort of 4 or 5 inches of water, and they become ghosts. They're so hard to catch. They come in and they swirl about, and you don't catch one. And it was happening to everyone. I could look, and it's really frustrating because you get a mass explosion. You hear it, like, you think, oh, that's on, and there's nothing there. And it was happening to everyone up the lake, and it was like the fish were a bit spooky. And I was catching an odd one down there, but I got drawn into it a bit. When in hindsight, I probably should have just carried on fishing shallow and I'd caught just as much. But anyway, I caught 12 carp down the edge, something like that, and that was my total then. I was just ticking over shallow, going down the edge, nicking one, back shallow. I ended up with £59 of small fish, which was good. I had £56 the week before, plus £30 of like F1s and that. So that was good, happy with that. And then I had £50 in my middle net, which was like the bigger F1s I caught shallow and up the bank. And then I had, well, it was £50 odd, and then I had another £40 down the edge, £39 something. And that gave me £152, which was enough to win the match. So that was really good, but only just. John Shellard next to me had 147, I think he was, or 146. And it was a close old thing. He was really, really close. I could tell. It was like he was catching still in the edge when I was having a bit of a tough time. And I thought, he's catching me up here, he's catching me up. And then with 1 minute to go, I got one and I played it out after the whistle. And that was about £6, so that actually proved to be the difference. But there you go, that's how these things go. You fish for it, don't you? So yeah, so another nice little match win. Like I say, it wasn't the biggest match in the world, but I don't mind. It's just nice to get on the bank and catch a load of fish. I'm always happy to do that. And obviously we're building knowledge about the venue for the final when that comes around. So the fish shallow really caught me by surprise. The shallow fishing was very good. And it was nice fishing when them fish were there, just fishing pellets. It was good fishing. So I'll have to bear that in mind. I'll have to do some shallow fishing, do some more shallow rigs, get my top kit sorted, and get more geared up for that, because I can see that playing a big part over the next few weeks. But again, my pace and the margins work well. I'm not catching anything on like a 5 metre pace line. It's just not happening this year for whatever reason. I know what part of the reason is you can't actually sit long enough to catch one because of the small fish. So that's playing a big part. But it doesn't matter because I can catch them small fish anyway. So yeah, good day. Learnt again, like you always do whenever you go to these places. Learnt a load of stuff, and I'm probably not going to get on a match next week because, like a lot of you guys watching, you know, I can't go every week because of family commitments, and you know, I try and do my best with my wife and daughter. I like to spend a lot of time with them as well, so I just try and go as and when I can. So I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat. So there won't be one next week, a match report, but I'll try and go the week after. Or was it Evie's birthday? Anyway, I'll be going somewhere soon. And until then, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you again soon.